Elephants are supposed to have long memories, but apparently the Republicans are having some trouble with how this economic crisis started. Now, let's recap. September 2008, the economy collapses on Bush's watch. The Republican administration hands a $700 billion bailout to Wall Street on a silver platter, I might add. It was the Bush administration's Wall Street pals, and then the bailout turned out to be one of the biggest gifts that just keeps on giving. That bailout money kept investment bank Goldman Sachs safe during the recession, even though they're to hell with the risk practices help bring the economy to its knees. For more, let me bring in Matt Taibbi. He is a contributing editor for Rolling Stone. He's been investigating this story for months and has a great piece in Rolling Stone. This is underreported. Great work on your part.
Oh, thank you.
What did Goldman Sachs do?
Well, what we tried to do with this piece is sort of trace the entire recent history of Wall Street dating back to the beginning of the internet bubble and show how investment banks in general profited from all of these bubbles and engineered all of these bubbles. And we picked Goldman Sachs in particular because they were the biggest, baddest guy in the block and the most influential of all of them by far.
Did the Bush administration just turn a blind eye to everything that they were doing on Wall Street?
Oh, there was absolutely no regulatory oversight of Wall Street whatsoever. I mean, one of the key moments in this entire crisis was in 2004 when Goldman and the other four major investment banks on Wall Street just went to the SEC and asked to have all requirements, capital requirements removed so that they could lend more money. There was no congressional hearing on this, no vote, and that cap was just lifted, and next thing you know, they were all at 33-to-1 debt-to-equity ratios, and they all leveraged themselves into destruction.
Okay,
basically.
so we're being told we're on the house of crumbling cards and whatnot. Nobody's going to be able to make it unless we help them out. And all along, you're basically saying that Goldman Sachs knew what was happening and they positioned themselves to walk away with huge profits with taxpayer dollars covering the risk.
Well, one of the things that sets Goldman apart from the other banks like Lehman and Bear Stearns is that at the height of the housing crisis, they actually were net short on mortgages. That means they were betting against the same mortgages that they were underwriting and selling on the market. So they actually knew that the stuff that they were selling was crap. Unlike Morgan and Lehman, which ended up eating this stuff and blowing up because of it, Goldman prospered during this time.
What do you think regulatory reforms, what do you think has to come forward to prevent this situation from coming up again?
Well, there has to be just stricter oversight across the board, and these companies have to be fined a lot greater when they get caught doing these things. A great example is the recent settlement with Massachusetts when they fined Goldman Sachs for selling bad mortgages, and they only fined them $50 million, which is about what their fixed income desk makes in about half a day. There have to be real stiff penalties for these banks when they get caught doing these things.
Okay, stiff penalties, would that stop anything? I mean, should there be some type of, well, the president's talking about a financial commission that would do something. Do you think that's enough?
Well, we have to make sure that the people who are running the commission aren't actually from the bank. I mean, a great example, the current president of the New York Fed, which is the primary supervisor of Goldman Sachs now that it's a bank holding company, is a former banker from Goldman Sachs. The head of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission right now, which oversees derivatives, is a former Goldman Sachs banker. We have to make sure that these people actually represent the proper interests.
How do you think Treasury Secretary Geithner is doing? I mean, he comes from that fraternal order on Wall Street.
He does. He never actually worked for Goldman Sachs, but he worked for Bob Rubin in the Treasury Department, and Rubin, of course, is a former head of Goldman Sachs. I see him as furthering completely the same programs that started under Hank Paulson and under George Bush. It seems like
gotta watch it.
Right, exactly.
Matt, good to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thanks
Great
for having
reporting.
me.